Hi, this is a mod tutorial on Embers Rekindled for 1.12.2. Embers Rekindled is a dwarven-themed immersive magic and technology mod. It adds ores, ore processing, alloys, tools, pipes, a heat-based magic energy system, and a steam-powered mechanical energy system. I'll be going over how to get started, the energy systems, and the basic machines of this mod, and will assume you have either NEI or JE installed, so I won't go over the recipes in too much detail. Embers adds the mob Ancient Golem, which when killed, drops an Ancient Motive Core and Archaic Bricks. You can use these to craft the Ancient Codex, which functions as the in-game documentation for the mod. It is arranged under 5 sections and can be overwhelming as there's no clear starting point at first glance. The first thing you want to do is stock up on Caminite Blend, which is made by crafting 4 pieces of clay and 1 block of sand. You can use that to craft Caminite plates, or cook it in a furnace and get Caminite bricks. These materials are used extensively for the machines and tools used in Embers Rekindled. Once you've got enough materials gathered in your game, you can get started on producing Ember energy. Before you do that, you're going to want to get an atmospheric gauge, and make sure that you're not setting up in an area with low ember. Ember flows in a gradient sectioned by chunks, and the higher the gauge, the more the ember bores will yield. Ember bores are machines which use solid fuel to grind bedrock and get ember crystals. The ember bore spawns a multi-block structure, and for it to work properly, the blades will need to touch bedrock. The bore requires furnace fuel, such as coal, charcoal, and blaze rods. To get the items into and out of the bores, you're going to use pipes. Just connect an item extractor to the container with the fuel you want to use, and use item pipes to connect it to the top center of the ember bore. To get the extractor to actually work, you'll need to apply a redstone signal to it, which is easily done by attaching either a vanilla lever or a Caminite lever. The Caminite lever functions identically to a vanilla lever and is only different cosmetically. Just flip the lever and it will start extracting. As soon as the bore receives fuel, it will start automatically. While the ember bore uses 1 block for both input and output, pipes alone cannot be used to input fuel and pull the resources at the same time. To do that, you'll need to use a mechanical core and place it on top. The mechanical core acts as a phantom face to a multi-block ports, and allow you to attach machine accessories to extend it even further. However, accessories attached to accessories do nothing. Connect the pipes from your fuel source to either the mechanical core or machine accessory face. Then use an item extractor on another face and pipe it into the container you want the resources from the ember bore to go into. The ember bore will produce ember crystals, ember shards, and ember grit, which are all used for various crafting recipes. Ember crystals and ember shards, however, are used as a source for ember energy. Now on to actually getting ember energy. To do that, you will need an ember activator. While we're here, you should get a tinker's hammer and an ember dial. The tinker's hammer is used to make plates and to configure ember emitters and receptors. The ember dial can be put on ember holding blocks to display how much ember is held. Moving on, we're going to put down an ember activator and connect it to this chest filled with ember shards. Once you flip the lever, the item pipes will fill the activator with as much as it can hold. The activator will then convert the shards into an ember energy and store it within the machine, as you can see once you place the ember dial on the top part. It will do this until the internal buffer is filled, or if the activator runs out of shards. To actually transport the energy, we're going to use the ember emitter and the ember receptor. Place the emitter on the block you want to output energy, and the receptor on the block you want to receive it. For now, we'll use this copper cell, which stores ember energy. Once you've got the emitter and receptor in place, you need to configure them using the tinker's hammer. To do this, shift right-click the receptor, and then right-click the emitter. Finally, you place the lever on the emitter and flip it on to activate the transfer process. According to the Ancient Codex, there is no actual limit to the distance between an emitter and a receptor. However, energy is lost the further it goes, so for efficiency's sake, you may want to consider using an ember relay, which are configured just like an emitter and receptor. Ember energy is used to power the various machines added in the mod. For demonstration purposes, we'll start with the mechanical pump. The mechanical pump requires the use of fluid pipes, which function identically to item pipes but transport fluids instead. It will also be helpful to use fluid dials, which tell you how much fluid is stored within fluid holding blocks in the mod. Place a mechanical pump above a source block of water and then connect it to your Ember source. Don't forget levers. Once connected, it will begin to fill its internal storage with water, which you can see by placing a fluid dial onto it. For now, we'll use the fluid pipes to deposit the water pumped into a fluid vessel. A fluid vessel is a block that just holds 16 buckets worth of fluid and can have fluids put in and out of it with a bucket. As you can see, the pump is working and filling with water and moving it to the fluid vessel. Fluid vessels are best used as a buffer. A more convenient way of storing large amounts of fluid is with a reservoir. The reservoir is like the bore in that it is a multi-block structure that spawns from just one block. On its own, the reservoir doesn't store anything and requires the use of Caminite rings. Just place the ring block on the center of the reservoir and it will spawn another multi-block structure. While the ring looks like a fence, it is only one block tall, so you can jump on it. And there's an invisible collisionless block at the center to make expanding the reservoir easier. Every Caminite ring adds 40 buckets of storage. Much like the bore, while you could just pipe directly into the center, it makes more sense to use a mechanical core, or a machine accessor, as it allows you to input and output fluid as well as attach a fluid dial so you can monitor the amount stored. If you notice, the pump isn't going very fast, and that is because it is a mechanical pump, and while it is meant to accept Ember energy, it is much more efficient to use mechanical energy. Mechanical energy relies on gears and axles spun with a steam engine. For that, we're going to need to produce steam. For demonstration purposes, I've recreated a functionally identical setup of what I just made. The way to produce steam in Embers is with a mini boiler. Mini boilers utilize heat given off from Ember producing machines to generate steam. Here we will place a mini boiler onto the Ember activator. Make sure it's facing the activator. The boiler requires water to be fed to it from the bottom, which I've set up using this reservoir. I highly recommend using a button on the fluid extractor to regulate water. The mini boiler generates a lot of steam from a little water, and if it reaches a max capacity of 16 buckets of steam, the mini boiler will explode and light the surrounding area on fire. So try to avoid that. This is what it looks like when the boiler gets too much steam. Because of its volatile nature, you'll want to make sure you have somewhere to put the steam. Despite it being a fluid, steam cannot be held in a fluid vessel or a reservoir, so the only viable place to put it outside the mini boiler is in a steam engine. The steam engine generates mechanical energy using steam. It can generate steam with the input of water and solid fuel, but it is much more efficient to pump steam directly into it with fluid pipes. Now on to actually wiring mechanical energy. Mechanical energy will spin axles, which can spin gears. There are 5 gears in the mod: iron, gold, redstone gold, inverted redstone gold, and dawnstone. The iron is the most basic gear and has the lowest speed cap. Gold is faster, and dawnstone is the fastest. The redstone gold gear is the same speed as the gold, but will not spin unless applied a redstone signal, and the inverted version is the opposite and will spin unless applied a redstone signal. Connect the axle to the big gray square in the steam engine and extend that until you want the axle to turn. To do this, you'll need to use a gear frame. The gear frame requires you to put gears into the faces of the frame so you can redirect the energy. Gear frames have only one input face, which is unlike the other faces as it has metal covering it. Despite being called a mechanical pump, you still need a block called the mechanical actuator to receive mechanical energy. If you're ever not sure what face of a machine accepts or exports, just get the Tinker's lens. When looking at a machine while holding a lens, it will display what the face of a machine does. Blue arrows indicate receiving, and orange arrows indicate exporting, and bullet points mean either or. Place the actuator onto a side of the machine that says actuator slot and wire your mechanical energy into it. For our purposes, iron gears are fine, and in general, faster isn't always better, as machines that can use mechanical energy do have diminishing returns. Now that everything is wired up, they should work as soon as the Ember activator starts producing Ember, which we can get started by flipping this lever. If you notice, the pump is significantly faster, and with this setup, more water is generated than consumed. Other machines can be powered with mechanical energy. They are the Ember Bore, the Stamper, the Auto Hammer, and partially the Mixer Centrifuge, as that still requires heat. Now we have an understanding of the energy system, let's move on to the various machines added. The first machine is the most straightforward. This is the automatic breaker. It will automatically break any block in front of its blades. It will drop this block into the world unless you put a bin on the opposite side of the blades. Bins are simple storage blocks which hold one stack of one item. More importantly, they automatically pick up items dropped by machines. Starting off the production chain, we have the melter. The melter melts what is put into it using Ember energy. To put things in the melter, you can either pipe it into the top half or you can just right-click it directly. Be careful, the melter will accept anything in your hand. To put a fluid dial, just hold shift while right-clicking on the top half. Ores that are melted this way turn into 2 ingots worth of molten metal. As a reminder, one metal ingot is 144 millibuckets, or roughly 1/7 of a bucket. Once the metal is in fluid form, you can pump it into a mixer centrifuge to make an alloy. Since we've got gold coming in, we can make dawnstone. Each of the 4 faces of the bottom half of the mixer act as its own tank, so in order to make an alloy, you have to pump the molten metal into different faces. Here I have molten copper ready to be put into the mixer. So once we flip the levers and have the proper amounts, dawnstone is a 1-to-1 gold and copper, the mixer will get to work and store the alloy in the top half. To turn the molten metal back into ingots, we're going to need a stamper. The stamper is made up of a stamper, a stamp base, and a stamp. There are 4 stamps: a flat, bar, gear, and plate stamp. While you can craft gears and plates, it is twice as efficient to use a stamper. For now, we'll use a bar stamp to get ingots. As soon as the stamp base has a fluid to match a stamp's recipe, it will stamp it out. Normally the stamper will just drop whatever was stamped, but if you put a bin underneath it, it will automatically pick it up, allowing you to collect or pipe out the contents at your leisure. Finally, we have the hearth coil. This is another multi-block structure which is placed the same way reservoirs, bores, and camite rings are placed. The hearth coil converts ember energy directly into heat and heats up the coils. Once the coils are hot enough, you can drop items you would want to cook in a furnace onto the coils. Once cooked, the hearth coil will pull the cooked item into its internal inventory, where you will need to use pipes to retrieve it. The hotter the coils, the faster things cook. At max temperature, it takes roughly 1 second to cook one item. And that should just about cover the basics of Embers Rekindled. I'll try to make a video on the more advanced stuff like transmutation and smithing next, so subscribe if you're interested or leave a comment if you've got any feedback.